Welcome to Backstory, the musical journey of Leon and Malia. Award-winning duo Leon and Malia has been part of Hawaii's music scene for over 40 years, composing and performing a wide range of music in Hawaii and around the world. In this special series, we'll be hearing the fascinating backstories behind their amazing journeys in music, from Waikiki to the London Symphony, from the momentous triumphs of Hokulea to the Hawaiian cultural renaissance.
Aloha, aloha mai kākou. I'm Kimo Kaho'ano. It's an honor to be here with you, welcoming you to Backstory, the musical journey of Leon and Malia.
Today we're going to talk about a recording project we did with the London Symphony Orchestra.
It just moved us right along.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a digital, so now it's all digital, right? You
Yes.
have a website and everything?
So,
Yep.
let me tell you a little bit about the digital part, because we actually participated in that. A number of years ago, we started, well, I guess we were in San Francisco at the time, and we started to compose a piece called Boy with Goldfish. And this was inspired by a friend of mine who was one of my professors of art at the University of Hawaii in Hilo. Mm-hmm. So, but he had moved back to San Francisco, and so we visited his studio one time, and Hawaii had such an impact on him that his whole painting style had changed to reflect Hawaii. Just an amazing thing. So we were looking at one of his paintings and said, that would make a great album cover, Boy with Goldfish. But we got to write a song for it, at least to get it on.
Right.
So
In fact, that's what his name is. John Thomas, very well-known artist.
Yeah.
He's gone now, but very well known. And so he said, well, if you're going to use the picture, you need to do a song. So we did a song, and then pretty soon he was inspired by the song to do a second painting. And then we did another song. And a long story made short, 10 years later, later, we finished the Boy with Goldfish symphonic piece. By then,
yeah, there it is.
It's in here somewhere.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, but this is the album. This is
the album.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing about this was that it was such a cutting-edge piece because it was very different. It used Hawaiian motifs, etc. That one of the record companies that approached us said, we want to do this in a brand new format called digital recording. And so, of course, we had been working in Los Angeles at the time, and the film industry was starting to switch to digital, particularly with their sound effects and things like that. So we were familiar to some degree with it. But anyway, so this record company lined up a digital recording company called Soundstream. And the label was Varese Saraband. Soundstream was the first company that was recording digitally. And so they set the standards for it. They were competing with Sony at the time, but Soundstream was ahead of them, of Sony. So we went and recorded with Soundstream, and then the record company executive said, we got to record with the best orchestra in the world, because we got to make this thing look good, right? I mean, this sound good. And he was impressed by the music itself. By the way, our composer, our co-composer of this is a man named Jerry Tanner, a symphonic composer. And so he took our songs and he rendered them into this wonderful symphonic settings.
What did that feel like when you heard it?
Oh, it was amazing.
Amazing,
Yeah.
right. And it's all based on Hawaiian myth. It's based a lot on the Opai'e song.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, where he goes to the different creatures trying to ask for help, because that's what it culminates in, where he has the opihi, clamp themselves over the eyes there. You can see it in the picture of the puhi. So it's just overwhelming, though, to be there in London with the same orchestra that recorded all the Star Wars themes.
Yeah. And in fact, so this was so cutting edge that when we finished the recording, and of course there's lots of stories about the recording itself, because
Which
they were
we'll do in
literally
an
writing
episode.
programs as we were editing this piece. I mean, they say come back 2 or 3 hours, and they would write the program for an edit, you know. And it took a mainframe computer and this a disk pack machine, like we have hard drives now, but this was a disk pack machine. It was just about as big as this table, and it had a circular stack of disks in it, and you put it in. It only had a couple of megabytes of memory. so they could record something like 10 seconds onto this disk pack to make the edit. Anyway, it was a pretty complicated thing. It took us 10 days to edit a piece that all we had to do was join them together.
Right,
We didn't have to
right,
do it
right.
because there was no way to do any kind of multi-tracking and all that.
You couldn't, and we
They
had
didn't have computers big enough for that.
Right. And
But-
actually, when I think about that, I think it's beautiful because multi-tracking separates, and to have that sound, that
Yeah.
full, rich sound.
Right. So this is actually standing in front of the orchestra,
Oh, was
recording
that
it live.
scary? That was
Stereo.
probably-
That's it.
Yeah. The 100-piece orchestra, 50-voice chorus were there outside of London, and we had to do it live.
Huh.
Oh, yes.
From entertainment
I know.
to musicals
From
to
just from
coming
us.
together to recording live.
Yeah.
Yes.
So our conductor was.
Hold on one
oh,
second.
Yes,
Hold-
okay.
Hold on
yeah.
one second.
Speaking
Technology is
Check-
taking over.
Okay,
Speaking
okay.
of
I
live.
think
Cut.
this is an edit. Speaking of
This is
edit,
This is our fault, folks.
yeah, no, it's an
No,
edit,
it's
and
not
we
a
are
live
very
show anyway.
fortunate to take out
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can,
and be able to edit
Yes.
what we have.
Right. So yes, a cell phone, is thousands of times more powerful than the recording equipment we had back then.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so this particular recording, our conductor was John Denver's conductor, and before that he was Neil Diamond's
no
conductor.
diamond. Yes.
You know, so we became friends in Hollywood, and so we said, "Hey, you want to conduct this piece?" He said, "Sure." So he came to Hollywood with us. His name is Lee Holdridge, and at that time he was doing these big scores with John Denver and others.
Sure.
So, but the other gentleman who was recording around the same time with Soundstream was John Williams, and they had just released Empire Strikes Back. So he went back into the studio and re-recorded it with the London Symphony Orchestra, so that they could do it in digital.
Sure.
And so
They were wild days.
now, so we
just
were
wild.
all before you could hear digital.
Right. Well, that was the
Yeah.
problem.
So
then we
this-
got back
so-
with it, and they couldn't.
So this
couldn't cut
particular
it.
recording was it just broke all kinds of barriers.
Yeah.
First of all, just to be able to imprint a vinyl disc with something that would maintain the integrity of a digital recording was impossible at the time.
Right.
And so they had to search around, the record company searched around to find a vinyl that would take this kind of,
And they didn't
intense-
have it in America.
Yeah.
Because it
So-
was too poisonous.
Right. So they had to ship it from Germany. There was this one, it was highly toxic. They had to get all kinds of licenses to ship it to America. They brought it to America. They retooled 2 record plants in Los Angeles because this was such a touchy vinyl. And so they did that. They pressed it, and for several months they kept on trying to press this, and it would never come up to the quality that was necessary to demonstrate how clear the digital recording is.
So where
they
did it
finally,
end up?
so they finally ended up shipping the vinyl and the project to JVC in Japan, where they conducted the pressing under surgical conditions. I mean, people are wearing full gowns and temperature controlled absolutely, and then they pressed them. And this is what this is.
Wow.
It's pressed, one of the first digital recordings pressed. Now, the one that just preceded this was a composite recording of John Williams and us.
No, but you know what? It's wonderful to let the people of Hawaii understand that you can accomplish and do so many different things without, even understanding where it's going.
Right.
Because now we look at it, and you mentioned the cell phone and how much capability it has today, and we hold it in our hands, the kids take
Right.
it, all that stuff.
Right.
But in those days, that was the founding, right? So to be able to be quality performers who get the moment take the moment, make it work, and I'm thinking that you made it work through relationships.
Yes.
Relationships.
Right.
This is important for your audience to hear, your generations, the kids. It's relationships, it's
Right.
people.
Let's talk about, first of all, the orchestral score.
Okay, well,
Because-
in a orchestral work, of course, you have to have the music all written out for the orchestra to play. So our friend Jerry Tanner, who was our orchestrator as well as co-composer, did this great orchestral score in which this is what the conductor uses in front of him, and he directs all of the instruments. And so you see the flute, the oboe, et cetera, going on down to the violins at the end.
And let me just add to those of you who are watching, nowadays you might have an app you can do this with, but in our day there were no apps, and you had to write it by hand,
By
right?
hand.
Jerry
Everything's
took it
written by hand, right? This is all written by hand. And then the copyist, and they usually had a bunch of copyists who would take this orchestral score, read through it, and copy it on separate pages for each instrument or each music stand of the orchestra.
That's true.
And so they'd have the first violin, second violins, the flute, and all that. Each one would have their own copy of the music that was taken from this orchestral
Right.
score.
And what I think is so amazing,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the score and you see all of these parts here, now an orchestrator like Jerry Tanner, fabulous, amazing thing. Leon and I wrote the original music.
The songs.
The songs. And of
And
course, we
lyrics.
could play them on guitar, and Leon did the charts for those songs. But then you get someone who can hear that just from the original, and then hear all of this
Translated into
in their heads and translated onto
symphonic work.
paper. It's just amazing.
Right.
Just, artists are just amazing anyway. Yeah.
So it's all written out, and everybody has their parts, and then a conductor comes in and holds it all
Puts it
together.
together. But the other interesting thing, I think, Leon, is that our orchestrator wrote this all out, and then we got in front of the symphony, and for the very first time, he would hear what was in his head. Because there were no synthesizers either that he
Right.
could practice on, right? Am I right?
Right. So we talked to the Honolulu Symphony, and they agreed to play excerpts from our symphonic work called Boy with Goldfish. And what we did is we traveled with the Honolulu Symphony for 2 years. And we did their community concerts and the school concerts and all
And
these
I
types of
think
things.
we did
We-
50
We did
concerts.
over 50 concerts in the 2 years. And in it, we played excerpts as we were finishing up various parts of the symphonic work. We would play those excerpts in
Right.
front of the community. And then, as Malia said, would be the first time we would have heard it with a symphony orchestra.
Right.
So anyway, so this has been quite a great project. So Malia's picking up some of
Right.
the
Well, this is when we went to Kauai.
flyers, programs and
Oh,
flyers.
and then we performed at the Waikiki Shell,
Mm-hmm.
which that was something, that was really exciting, wasn't
Mm-hmm.
it? And we went to Maui, here's Maui Philharmonic. So, it's been a saga of many places, and
Right.
we even went to Lanai, can you believe it?
Right.
We performed
Took the
for...
entire symphony orchestra to Lanai.
We did, yes, right.
Yes, and then we also went to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, let's not forget that one, it's here
in an
somewhere.
exchange program with the Utah Symphony. They came here, and the Honolulu Symphony went to Utah. So by doing so, we actually went along as featured performers,
Yes,
along with Nina Keali'i Vahamana,
right.
and we performed excerpts from Boy with Goldfish. But we did have the premiere performance of the piece
Yes,
here
we
in
did.
Honolulu, and
Right.
that particular program that had just fallen over is what was the program from that particular
Right.
performance.
And I think we have some shots of
Right.
the, because there was also an exhibition at the Contemporary Arts Center.
Right, at the same time.
So I think we're going to try to show some of those pictures as
Right.
well.
Okay, so then we went to London. what they decided to do was pick the best orchestra in the world
There we go.
and do this piece in digital. And
Yes.
so we packed up our things, including pahu and ka'eke.
Yes. Oh, yes. The
and
conch.
of course, and the conch. And both the conch and the ka'eke needed to be concert tuned.
Oh, tell
so
them about
I went
how
to the
you do
North
that.
Shore and blew
Yes.
a bunch of conches and found one in D.
One. That was in D.
And then we had the ka'eke made, but I had to tune those to concert pitch also, each
As
of
well,
the ka'eke.
yes.
And so it was really quite a project. Then we shipped everything over, and a pahu, we got the pahu from Ho'akale Kama'u. And so everything was shipped over to London, as well as the equipment to record it by, because this, you couldn't record it on any kind of equipment. It had to be specific equipment dedicated and built
Yes.
for this particular kind of recording. So everything got shipped to London. We got there, so it was a big logistical project as well.
Huge, not just big, massive logistical situation there. Yes,
Right.
and I remember
To get
it
it
well.
there, right. And then
Yes.
we met with the London Symphony Orchestra. The person who had arranged on that end, a man named Brian Culverhouse, top engineer for recording symphony orchestras at the time,
Right.
top in the world.
Right.
He was the liaison for the London Symphony
Right.
Orchestra.
But we had to find the right place to record,
Right.
the right, we
Right.
couldn't just fit in a studio because we needed a certain instrument.
And we needed a hall that was that reflected
Tell them what we
the
needed.
sound. And so this is part of the whole experiment with the digital recording.
Yes.
They wanted a real concert hall.
Yes.
And so, but the thing is, our score calls for a pipe organ, a large pipe organ at the very end. So we had to find a hall that had a pipe organ. And so we ended up at Watford Town Hall in Watford, England. And the London Symphony Orchestra bussed out to Watford several times. I think we had
Yes.
4 sessions
Yes.
in which we recorded the entire piece.
Right, but we did not record it in order. We didn't start with this and go to that, one,
Right.
2, 3, 4, 5.
We did it according to the size of the
the
orchestra
size of
we
the-
needed at the
yes,
time
right,
for each piece.
Right, and then we had to have, this is Hawaiian instruments. How were they going to play the Hawaiian instruments? And who was
So-
going to play them?
Right. So that's a whole other story. But anyway, we
is.
got over those hurdles, and we got the recording done. Our friend Lee Holdridge
Right.
came from L.A. to conduct,
Conduct, yes.
the orchestra, and that's how this all happened.
Right, right.
By that time,
Right.
several other people had done their recordings as well with Soundstream, the
Right.
company, and that's where this comes in.
Beyond
This-
the sound barrier.
Beyond the Sound Barrier is a compilation of several projects that were done. So we have John Williams, Morton Gould,
Right. Yes,
Lee
and Lee Holdridge,
Boy
right.
with Goldfish is on
With
there.
Boy with Goldfish, they selected to put it on there.
Right. So
Right.
we each had some small selection on that, and that was a demo, and so was our recording. This is the original recording, Boy with Goldfish. That became a demo at all of the audiophile shows, all of
Yes.
the places where audio equipment was
Right.
being sold. So anyway, so the technical part of it, recording it, was such a huge project.
Huge,
But
yes.
what it did was it helped to change the industry as far as moving it toward becoming more digitally based.
And it has.
Yes,
as we
and
know.
of course everything is digital now.
Now,
and
right.
people with nostalgia are going back to the analog discs. So we happen to have a few analog discs.
Right, right. Yes, we better
But-
put those online
not
right
too
away.
many.
Yes, true, true. So we went from places like, I mean, when you think of it, here's the Honolulu Symphony on Lanai. Then there's the premiere in Honolulu. Then there's the recording in London, England. And then it gets all the way to Japan. Then it comes back. I mean, it's been all over with all kinds of different component parts, making it what it is, a masterful piece.
So that's the story of how this was done.
Yes, we want to be able to show you the paintings. We want to play for you some of the music. And so I think we should move into that.
Right. Okay. So the music that we're going to be playing
Okay.
is actually the last very last part of the symphonic piece, and it's the one called Turn.
To turn darkness into light, to turn despair into happiness, to be able to turn. And it was a very big turning point in our lives, Leon. So let's go on and look at the paintings. Well, that's the exciting episode for now.
From us, Leon and Malia, and the London Symphony Orchestra, aloha.
Aloha.
taste this fruit of the earth. Its flavor will bring joy and mirth.
Oh, pretty goldfish, won't you please tell me your secret? I am drawn to your beauty. What is your mystery?
The fragrance of flora is sweet, lovingly spread at your feet.
Oh, pretty goldfish, you are ever before me. I reach out with my hand. Won't you please be my friend?
Come drink the spice of the sun. Your heart will be a happy one.
Oh, pretty goldfish, I am trying.